Hello, everyone, and welcome. My name is Caitlin Edwards, and I am the Community Events Manager at Linux Professional Institute. Thank you for joining us today at our first Train the Trainer webinar. This webinar is being recorded. The recording, presentation slides, and contact details will be sent out in an email later this week. Linux Professional Institute is the global certification standard and career support organization for open source professionals. With more than 175,000 certification holders, it's the world's first and largest vendor-neutral Linux and open source certification body. LPI has certified professionals in over 180 countries, delivers exams in multiple languages, and has hundreds of training partners. Our purpose is to enable economic and creative opportunities for everybody by making open source knowledge and skills certification universally accessible. During this webinar, please feel free to write any questions you have throughout in the chat or Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. I will keep track and help facilitate Q&A throughout the webinar. Today's webinar will be led by Cesar Brod, the Director of Community Engagement for Linux Professional Institute, Latin America. Cesar fell in love with Unix and its philosophy in the early 1990s and became a Linux user before the kernel reached version 1.0. Since 1997, he has been living out of free and open source relative services, and he is a true believer Agile and Linux are two tails of the same community. Cesar has also worked with educational institutions in Brazil, helping create successful business models using free and open source technology enterprises, generating employment and incomes for hundreds of people. He also wrote books on agile methodologies, computer programming, and technology in education. Cesar, I would like to please have you take it away.
Thanks a lot, Caitlin, for your kind introduction, and hello, everybody. As Caitlin mentioned, this is the first of our webinar series on Train the Trainer, and we do hope you will provide us feedback to make it better. As everything on LPI, we will also build and improve our webinars with the help of you, our friends, the worldwide LPI community. Let me just move to the proposed agenda. And as Caitlin mentioned, she'll be channeling all of your questions in the chat room, and we'll pause after every major topic to take your questions. As I told Caitlin, sometimes I get too enthusiastic about something, so I tend to talk faster and faster. And Caitlin will make sure that she'll nudge me and make sure that everybody is understanding me. But, well, feel free to have Caitlin interrupting me anytime you want. Although I promise I'll try to police myself. And okay, let's go. You'll see that our slides, they are quite verbose, and there are a couple of reasons for that. When we have webinars with people joining us from all over the world, sometimes the web connection, the network in one end or another end will end up varying. I'm in the city of Lajeado, in the very south of Brazil, and Caitlin is in Toronto area in Canada. And I see that you guys are joining us from all over the world, so I'm very glad that you are doing that. So if our voice gets flaky, at least you have the slides to refer to. And of course, as Caitlin also told you, she'll be recording that session so we can access at any future time. Another reason for the verbose in our slides is that we do want you to make use of the content on those slides when conducting your own training. So we decide to keep them verbose, so after you are familiar with the content, you can train them based on your needs and on your presentation skills. So here's the agenda. Why LPI and why open source? The LPI certification roadmap. How are the exams structured and how to get certified? Certification objectives. Then we'll go to a sample lesson, and then we'll have some time to do some questions and answering. So let's jump into the first item of our agenda. Why LPI and why open source? So why open source? I am assuming that most of you are quite familiar with free and open source software. As the free and open source technology grew over several decades now, there are solutions available to solve pretty much everything. And if something is still missing, it should not be difficult to build upon what is already there, what we already have. And by building upon this huge base, we end up climbing into the shoulders of giants and are actually able to make our contributions not only to the code, but especially to our community and our society. As Eric Raymond once said, given enough ice, all bugs are shallow. He named this the Linus law after Linux creator Linus Torvalds. What he meant by this is, as everyone has access to the source code of the software, when a problem arises, a lot of people can actually detect and fix it. Free software is also free available on the web. Just download it. Do make sure though, if you improve it, you will make your improvements available so the chain of contribution will never stop. Again, as the source code is available to you, you can tailor your software to your needs. Open software is also really a big incentive to standardization. A lot of people using the same kind of thing, let's just use the web as an example, have the need of consistency in the way they use it with no dependencies on artificial intellectual property protection mechanisms and patents and things such as that. So you see that within the web, starting from the TCP/IP protocol to XML formats, the standardization grew from the needs of the user community. And maybe the most important thing for people considering jumping into our professional community today is the fact that the world runs on free and open source technology. It might be running the blender in your kitchen, but it's also embedded in the cockpit of a SpaceX rocket. It's all over the newest Internet of Things devices and also runs big machine learning and cognitive appliances such as IBM's Watson. It also has taken over the cloud, and the cloud is pretty much the internet today. And titans such as Google, Facebook, and even Microsoft are big users of free and open source software. And those giants also contribute in one way or another to our ecosystem. So given the importance of open sources to the IT ecosystem, let me now read LPI's mission to you. Linux Professional Institute promotes the use of open source by elevating the people who work with it. So, as you can clearly see, and this is really important, our mission is not to sell certifications. Our certifications, for sure, support our role in fulfilling our mission. And we do want our partners, you, to join us in our mission. Well, once this said, we do provide the best and well-recognized certifications in the open source world. And the more than 165,000 professionals certified by us, they agree with this. So what are the benefits of our certifications? Our certifications, they are built with the help of the community, and we'll talk a little bit more about that as we approach the end of this presentation, this webinar. Our certifications are built in a way they will test a professional not only for the content he or she knows, but also for the quality of this knowledge, the way this knowledge can be applied into practical problem-solving situations. Of course, as any certification, we are limited by time and number of questions, so it's impossible to say it is a comprehensive qualification. And yet, our certifications are unique and they are a distinguished credential. You do have to know your stuff to pass our exams, and they are not easy. What are some of the advantages of our certifications? They are globally recognized and reputable. Some members, from the top of my head, I remember SUSE Linux right now, do require our certifications as a prerequisite for their own exams. We do not ask for the candidate to take specific courses or read specific materials. As long as he or she becomes familiar with the topics of our certifications and pass our exams, they will get a certificate. And we'll take a look at the topics our exams shortly. By now, as we are going to move into the next topic, let me see if there are some questions from you. Caitlin?
No questions at this time.
Oh, good. So I'm being very clear, or nobody's really understanding anything of what I'm talking about?
You're being very clear.
Thanks a lot, Caitlin. Okay, let's talk a little bit about our certification roadmap. Actually, I will use this slide now as the basis for what I'm going to be telling you. And in the next slide, as I told in the beginning, there's more verbose stuff, more information that you can get when you do your presentation or when you use our material in any other situations. We now have 3 tracks: the IT Essentials, the Linux Professional, and the Open Technology track. So in the IT Essentials today, what we do have is the Linux Essentials. And the Linux Essentials certification is an exam that's actually very dear to me. It's an exam that was asked by the community for us to provide them with this exam. And one of the reasons for that is that, well, there were very little, and still the market requires a lot of more people, more certified people than there are in the market right now. So some employers, they told us that they were having difficulties on hiring LPIC1 professionals, and when they hired an LPIC1 professional, another company would just jump in and hire the professional that they just hired. So they told us, well, why don't you provide us with a more essential certification in a way that we can hire these people that know the essentials of Linux, and then we work with our HR department. So we'll be able to set a plan. So someone comes in with a Linux Essential certification, and we have a human resources benefit. So people will allow people to take other certifications and advance their LPI career while they are working with us. So this whole story with Linux Essentials and the conversations that we have with the companies actually landed us to a partner plan that we have today, which is the hiring partner program. So this is something that we can talk some other time. We do have a webinar on partners, so I recommend you to find out when it's going to be the next one and attend that. But well, this is just a small story on how Linux Essentials showed up. So Linux Essentials basically will test you for your basic Linux skills. And when we say basic, it is already Linux administration skills. So we will need to know your way around the Linux shell, the Linux terminal, and we'll need to know some basic shell programming. So it is essentials, but you do need to know your basics. Then we have the LPIC1 track, which is basically the Linux system administrator. The LPIC2, which is the Linux engineer, but you can say that LPIC2 is Linux administration plus network administration. And then we have the specializations, LPIC3, which is you can take the LPIC3 exam for security, for mixed environment, meaning that you have a Linux box along with other operating systems, and virtualization and high availability. And virtualization and high availability is a certification that is being required by several cloud service providers. The Linux Essentials exam is one exam, 40 questions that students can take in 60 minutes. LPIC1 consists in 2 exams, LPIC 101 and LPIC 102. Each one of those exams have 60 questions, and it takes you 90 minutes to fill the exam. LPIC 2, the same thing, 2 exams. LPIC 1 is a prerequisite for LPIC 2, and LPIC 2 is a prerequisite for LPIC 3. You do not need to take the 3 LPIC 3 exams in order to be an LPIC 3 certified professional. You can choose your specialization career path, and you can take 1 or more certifications if you want. You do know that by now, Linux certifications, they expire after 5 years, But if you take a following certification, the following certification will reevaluate your previous certification. So if you have an LPIC 1 expiring and you take an LPIC 2, your LPIC 2 will revalidate your LPIC 1. In the open technology, we have the DevOps Tools Engineer. It's a certification that is growing very well due to the fact that the DevOps culture and the DevOps market is something that is really hot right now. It's the kind of profession that knows how to develop a system, but also knows how to administer systems, how to deploy the application to its users, knows all tools necessary to work the concept, the whole flow from concept to cache, like from the creation, the ideation of an application to put this application in development and actually deploy to its customers. You'll see that in the IT Essentials track, there are some new certifications coming up: Security Essentials, Web Essentials, and IoT Essentials. Keep looking into our webpage. We'll be announcing them probably before the end of this year. And also the BOSS specialist. The BOSS specialist is business of open source. If for someone that works as a CTO or CIO of a company and actually hires professionals and services and cloud providers where he or she will have to deal with open source. So this certification actually is built into this knowledge of hiring professionals, understanding licenses and understanding contracts related to open source. And some of you that are more from the technical side, you know that other than the Linux kernel, we do have the BSD kernel. So the BSD Associate is it used to be a certification that was provided by the BSD community, and now they came into the Linux Professional Institute, and we work together to provide the BSD Associate certification, which is for the FreeBSD, NetBSD side of free and open source operating system. Okay, yeah, I pretty much told you everything that we have in those slides, so just skip them here. You can read again more in detail as we go. And now we are gonna tell you a little bit how are the exams structured and how to get certified. So before I enter into this topic, I'll ask Caitlin again, is there any outstanding questions, Caitlin?
No outstanding questions at this time.
Okay, good. So let's just move on. Okay, I already told you that pretty much all of our exams, you can take the exams in 90 minutes, actually up to 90 minutes. I just got to know that we just got a new record. Someone took just for the sake of confidentiality, I won't reveal his name, but someone took the LPIC 3 security certification in 8 minutes in a Pearsonville lab. It was a worldwide record that just happened the past week. So basically, all of our exams, you can take them in up to 90 minutes, and they are made up of 60 questions. The Essentials track is a little smaller. You can take it in up to 60 minutes, and you have 40 questions. Our questions, they are divided in multiple choice questions. You have 4 or 5 given answer, and you need to choose one correct answer, unless another number of choices is explicitly requested. So if there are 2 right questions, in the 2 right answers, in the question, it will be explicitly told to you, there are 2 correct questions, so you need to answer, to mark those 2 correct questions. And there is a few in the blank questions. It's just a small line of free text, very short, where you need to reply very shortly with an example of a command, a parameter, a configuration option, a path, a file name. And as you know, usually there are several ways for us to do things in Linux. So if you do provide one correct answer, that's okay. You will pass these questions. Regarding the format of the exam, it's all about passing. There's actually no final grade on the certification. And we know nobody knows everything. For instance, our exams, they are sort of, you see questions on Debian-based distributions and Red Hat-based distributions. On the apt, DPKG, software install and maintenance formats, and also the RPM, EM, software install and software maintenance formats. But let's suppose that you know very well, extremely well, your Debian system, and you know pretty much nothing about your Red Hat, about another Red Hat system. You still get a score that will enable you to pass. You actually, we do have a group of psychometrics professionals. So actually, if the exam will tell you that you actually good enough not to stumble in problems that will happen in real life. The scores, they range from 200 to 800. 500 is a pass. The number of correct answers will actually, depending on if it's a difficult question, if it's an easy question, this will impact in the final score. So what I usually tell my candidates is that, okay, you have 60 questions. Try to get at least 40 questions for sure that you know that you will pass, that you know the answer. So about 40 to 45 questions, and knowing that the questions are divided equally between easy, medium, and difficult, 45 to 50 questions, 40 to 45 questions will give you enough questions for you to actually pass the exam. Where to take an LPI exam? We do provide paper-based exams at big events. So here are just some examples. Usually, we work with the event organizers and we provide a discounted price. This discounted price is based on how much the event provides LPI, such as you guys know LPI is a non-profit organization. So we actually depend from those events actually to tell people about ourselves. So if an event is able to provide us a room for the paper-based tests, if the event is able to provide us a place for us to talk about LPI, to have a booth, basically the more things the event provides us, the more discount we are able to provide. So if you are thinking of an exam that's happening in your geography, or if you're thinking of organizing an exam, come and talk to us and we will figure out ways that we can help you. It's all about spreading the LPI word. Also, you can take your exams at test centers from Pearson VUE. If you look into this URL, vue.com/LPI, you'll see where you can take the exams. The advantage is that the results are available immediately after the exam for the candidate. If you, in the other way around, if you choose a paper-based test in an event, then you have to wait for a couple of weeks for us to process your answers in Canada. Your exams are actually shipped into the LPI headquarters and they are rated in Canada, and you will receive the answer from your exam directly into your email a couple of weeks after that. Okay, Caitlin, again, another pause. How are you doing? How are we doing?
We are doing great. You are doing great. No questions so far.
Okay, so now let's jump into the certification objectives. All of our objectives, basically, you do have some basic information on the main LPI.org site, and in the main LPI.org site, you have links to our wiki. So right now, let me jump into our wiki and show you some stuff. Okay, I'll need to minimize my presentation before I go there. Okay, so let me go to the main wiki page, wiki.lpi.org. So here you have the objects for all of our exams. And do note, we do have some free training materials in here that you can use to train yourself, train your candidates, develop new training materials from that. So there is already some stuff in here. And on the left side, you see that you do have the objects for all of our exams. Just for the sake of an example, let's take a look at the Linux Essentials exams. So here we have before that, let me show you one thing that I forgot. Right in the beginning, you see that we encourage you to participate in the exam development process. So the way we develop our exams is with our community. So in order to help us, you can create an account here in our wiki. And we also have a mailing list that you can join. It's lists.lpi.org. Oops. Then it's not lists, it's list.lpi.org. Okay. So this is our exam development mailing list. Everyone can join. I recommend you, if you do want to know how our exams evolve, to join this mailing list and take a look at some previous message. Then you'll see exactly how our process works. And if you'd like to contribute, please feel free to do so. Okay, let me go back to our wiki and let me go back to our Linux Essentials objectives. You see that here is all of the objectives that you need to learn to pass our exam are in here. And it is divided in topics. We have the weight for every subtopic. And when we say weight, it's actually the number of questions that you will see in the exam. So when we say Linux evolution and popular operating systems, there is a weight of 2. So there are going to be 2 questions in this subtopic. And here you can jump directly to one topic of our choice. Let's just go to find your way in the Linux system. So here you have the command line basics, the knowledge areas. So you need to know some basic shell, some command line syntax, variables, quoting, etc. And here's a partial list of the used file terms and utilities. So so here's the things that you need to learn. And until now, well, I would say until very recently, we are very reluctant on actually providing content for people to learn the topics, because we really don't care about the way that people learn this stuff. And this is why we rely on our training partners to actually produce materials so people will learn these knowledge areas and they will be able to pass our exams. But a lot of people, as LPI has been growing, a lot of new partners, they have been asking us, we know how to train people, but we do not know how to train people to take your certifications. Can we have some help on that? So we actually, again, asked help from the community, and we created this website right here called learning.lpi.org, where we actually do have some learning materials, and it's growing. Right now, we have learning materials on Linux Essentials, and soon we'll have some more material on other certifications. If you take a look here on About Contributors, you see that we do have some LPI staff in here, the academic advisory, but the authors are a lot of people from the community. And if you scroll down, you'll probably see some people here that you have heard about or you actually know them in person. So we are building this again, as we do everything along with our community. If we jump into learning materials, and I'll go directly to, here, become a contributor. So if you want to become a contributor, please do follow this link and become a contributor. In all materials, right now, you see that we have Linux Essentials. Here is also divided in the same way that our topics are divided, but in our topics, you have what you need to learn. Here, you actually have some lessons on how to learn. So let's go back to our topics a little bit. We are taking a look at 2.1, command line basics. So let's take a look here on 2.1, command line basics. So this is a reference to the LPI objective. So all of our training material, you see that actually reference to the wiki page. So here it just repeats the things that we have in our topics. And then you do have some lessons. So if you go into lesson 1, again, Linux Essentials, topic 2, finding your way on a Linux system, and topic 2.1, command line basics, lesson 1 of 2. So here, if you scroll to this lesson, you will know, I would say, everything that you need in order to pass the Linux Essentials exam. But of course, this is a material that you will develop depending on the way that you teach your students. And we know that for some students, just by looking to this and looking for some additional materials on the internet, it will be already enough for them to learn and exercise with their machine and pass the exams. But it's not true that 100% of people learn this way. Actually, I know for sure that it's not the majority of people in the technical world that know this way. A lot of people are taking online courses, and there's a good amount of people that actually need to take presential courses with instructor in order to remove some bumps in the road and be able to actually learn. So one of the things, well, let me just stop for a while now to see if you guys have some questions.
We have a couple questions here. So one of them is, how long does the paper-based exam last to be corrected? And what is the process? I think what the attendee is saying here is how long between each version, I believe, and that would be a couple of years, and then we renew the version type. And then do we need to send the exams to Canada to be corrected?
Okay, so even though the question may, let me see if I got the question correctly, because I think there's two folds to these questions, and at least I understood twofold. And even though the question may be only one, I will reply to both because I think both are important. First, as soon as you end your paper-based test, as a candidate end the paper-based test, the proctor in the room will collect all of the tests, and he has up to a week to send the exams to Canada, to the LPI headquarters in Canada. So they usually are sent by a secure FedEx shipment, just to make sure that your exams are not going to be violated in any way from where they are taken until they reach LPI. So let's say in the worst case scenario, usually the proctors, they send the exam right away as soon as the exams are finished. But let's say the proctor takes a week to send the exams, and it's in let's say it's a very remote area of the globe, and it will take another week to get into Canada. Depending on the amount of the exams LPI receives, usually it takes LPI a week to process the exams. It can take 2 weeks. So I would say that depending on the transit, the FedEx, it's from 2 to 4 weeks maximum for the candidate to have his response. And regarding the version of exams, this actually depends on feedback from the community and technology advances. For instance, as soon as we did the LPI 1.5 exam, some things have changed, and we pretty much, as soon as the 1.5 exam was released, we already started working on the version 1.6, which was released 2 years after the first version. We are very, very careful about the questions that we put in the exams. So although we try to follow up everything that comes up in terms of new and important technologies, we try to make our exams as eternal as possible. Of course, technology doesn't allow us to do that, but we try to make our exams really testing what the professional knows regarding new technology that has just came out of the shelf. So someone that actually passes our certification is someone that is actually in sync with technology. Did I reply correctly to the question?
Yes, yep, I believe you did. And one here, why is the section of all materials on the learning.lpi.org webpage? There's not a lot of information about the LPIC 1 or LPIC 2 yet.
Well, there is pretty much no information about LPIC 1 and LPIC 2 yet, because this we just released, I think, if I'm not mistaken, this website is not even 1 month old, right, Caitlin?
That's correct. That's correct. Last week was the release date.
Yeah, so what you are seeing is actually first-hand materials that we are just releasing in order to have our community collaborating with us to produce more material. So we do have someone that is responsible for this website, and this is Professor Dr. Marcus, and he's working with all of the contributors that you say in here, but we do need to have more people collaborating with us, so we have more material on not only LPIC 1 and LPIC 2, but all of our certifications. And I want to make something very clear again. This material is not for, LPI does not intend to compete with our training partners. So we want to build this in partnership with our training partners. And that's why we did not want, oh, here is LPI and here is everything that you need to know about all of our certifications. No, we have worked on, you can consider this an example with Linux Essentials, and now along with the community, we will build more material for LPIC 1, LPIC 2, LPIC 3, DevOps, and all of our other certifications. So this is the way LPI works. Sometimes we are not as fast as some people actually want us to be, but we are the most important thing for us, rather than being fast, is to be agile in a way of working collaboratively with our community and getting feedback as soon as possible and as frequent as possible from our community to become better and better all the time in fulfilling our mission, which is actually, elevate the free and open technology marketplace and ecosystem by elevating the professionals that are working within this environment.
Great, thanks, Cesar. And that's all questions we have at this time.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so you can, of course, read all of this material that we have in here. I am assuming that you guys have installed Linux, being this in your desktop, in an alternative desktop, in a virtual environment, as we did provide some instructions in the setup lessons, or in a cloud environment. And again, those setup instructions that we provided, they were actually written by Matt Rice, our executive director, and by myself, with the help of some people from inside LPI and a few people from the community where we tested the material before. And we know that this is far from being comprehensive. There are other virtualization options rather than VirtualBox. We do have VMware, we do have GnomeBox, and actually Caitlin told me that some of you that are watching this seminar actually used other setups for in order to go through this training session. So there is another place for you to contribute with us. If you come up with a new idea of a new setup for people to set up their training Linux environment, please send us these and we'll make sure that we'll make this available for the community. Okay, right now, what I will do, you'll see that I am reading here, I am on Linux Essentials Objective 2.1, and I am on lesson 1 of 2. And here we see that it will tell you how the shell works, which is called the bash shell. And when I work this, and there's other options of shells, when I work this with students, I like to start working right away with the terminal. There are several ways for you to open a terminal in your Linux box. Some of them, as you can see in mine in here, you have a shortcut for the terminal. Also in the menu, you also have another shortcut. Most Linux distributions, if you hit at the same time the keys Control, Alt, and T, you will also open a terminal. So there are several ways for you to do that. If you know which terminal you want to use, you can also hit Alt F2, and it will open app locator. Sorry, this is in Portuguese. I actually forgot to exchange this into English for this webinar, but here I can write the name of a terminal that I want, such as GNOME terminal, whatever. So I do have a terminal open in here. So can you see my terminal, Caitlin?
No, yes, I can.
Okay, good. So one of the things that I like to do, I know that people, they learn better if they have some story that they can relate to. So for instance, here we are gonna tell about the shell. What's the shell after all? We need to think of a shell as a, well, one suggestion, we don't need to do anything, but one suggestion that I give my students is actually to think of a shell as a seashell that is actually protecting its inside. So unless you crack open the shell, you will not exactly see the pearl, how the pearl is formed. You can only interface with the actual thing inside the shell. Forgot the name for that. Wow. Molluscule. Sorry, English is not my first language, as you probably have noticed already. But anyway, the shell is what protects the Unix kernel, the Linux kernel, from us users. So in order to access the kernel, the shell provides us with a series of commands that allow us to interface with the shell. So here in this terminal, what I'm seeing is the shell. And it's actually a very special kind of shell. It's called the Bourne Again shell, which you can see right in here. So why is it called Bourne Again shell? And the reason I tell this story is just for people to understand that the shell is the interface between us, the user, and the kernel. When the father of Linux, the Unix operating system, was created, it was created by two persons. Well, actually a team led by two persons, Ken Thompson and Dennis Ritchie. And Ken Thompson created the first interface to the kernel, which was called the Thompson shell. And the Thompson shell was very weak. Like soon people decided that they want to automate stuff using shell scripting. And the Thompson shell was not capable of shell scripting. So soon after that, in 1977, a guy named Stephen Bourne, let me write his name in here so you can search for him. Stephen Bourne created the Bourne shell. He named the shell after him, as it was very common for people to do at this time. The Bourne shell had several advantages. It could work with variables, and you could write scripts with conditional loops. And this was pretty much the shell of source for a lot of people for a very long time. When the GNU system started being developed by Richard Stallman and his team at the MIT around the 80s, and this part of the story also is part of the topic 1 of the Linux Essentials exam. So Richard Stallman started to write a clone of the Unix operating system with no proprietary line of code. And he called this Unix GNU, the GNU operating system. GNU, which stands for GNU is not Unix. Meaning that GNU is exactly Unix, but it was written from scratch. So this kind of recursive acronym was also very, very common in that time. Okay, so for the GNU system, a guy named Brian Fox, yes, I almost forgot. Brian Fox in 1989 wrote a new shell, and he would like to joke a little bit, so he called this new shell Bourne again, because it was basically he was paying an homage to Stephen Bourne, and also a joke with Born Again, so it's the same shell that was born again, and it's called shell. So this is the shell that we use. So I'll just clear my screen in here, and let's take a look at when we work with the shell, there are several things that the shell takes in consideration. The shell works with what we call the environment variables. And from the Unix philosophy, one program must do one thing and very well, and must be able to communicate with several other programs. So as we are inside the shell, let me first do something. Let me create a new folder by using the command mkdir, make directory, and I'll call this new directory ttt for train the trainer. Now I will cd into this directory. Before I do that, okay, I just created the directory ttt. No, okay. I'm improvising, so let me just jump using the cd, change directory to ttt. If I hit the env command, this env will list all of the shell environment variables. So if I hit enter, I'll have lots of stuff in here which I cannot see all at once. So I'll use one thing called, let me clear my screen just to make it easier for you to see. Clear. I can env, the only thing that the command env, which stands for environment, will do is going to list all of the shell environments. I can pipe the exit, the output of the command environment to another command, the command more. The one thing that the command more will do is paginate what the command env is sending to it. So if I just do this, now I have by pages what are my variables. So you see that we have a variable here, pwd. PWD stands for print my working directory, or the folder that I'm working on right now. Home is my default home folder. So here there are some things that we can actually start playing with our students. For instance, what is the directory that I am right now, the folder that I am right now? I know because the shell already tells me here, tilde /ttt. Tilde means my home directory. So if I do cd tilde, it's the same thing as go back to my home directory. So now I'm back to my home directory. If I do env, now instead of piping to more, I'll pipe to another command called grep. Grep means, well, grab the line that contains what I'm gonna tell you right now. Grab the word pwd. And here it will list my working directory is homebroad and my old working directory is pwd. Let's do something different, like grep home. Okay, so you see my home directory now is home/broad. I know that variables are, as a standard, they are all on caps. If I didn't know that, I could say grep minus I, ignore the case home. And then it will actually bring more stuff. Home with lower caps and home with upper caps, okay? How do I know all of that? Well, there are three ways for you to get to know your way into a Linux environment. And getting to know your way around the Linux environment is part of topic 1 of Linux Essentials. So for every command such as env, well, let's try. Let's try with grep. If I do grep minus minus help, and I know that I can pipe 2 more, so I can paginate it. It will give me some hints on how to use grep. So I know, looking at here, if I use grep minus I will ignore the case. There are several other things that you can do here with the grep command. So if I already know a little bit about what grep is good for, grep minus minus help would help me. Another option, if I want to get deeper into what the command grep does, let me clear, I can do man help. Man is the manual for the command help. Now, oops, help, oops, sorry, it's not help, it's grep that is, sorry about this, man grep. Now I have the manual for the command grep. It's more in-depth information about the command grep. And if I still need more information, like I do want a tutorial about grep, then I will use info grep. So even more information. So in order for me to know more and more about the command, the order this is minus minus help, minus minus, again, clear. It's the command minus minus help, then man, the command, and then info, the command. And I can do this with all sorts of commands that I have. Some commands do not have the help. Some commands might not have the info, but pretty much all of the commands have the manual page for it. I can also know more things about the command if I type the type of command. So type grep. Grep is alias to grep minus minus color auto. So if I use grep and for some reason I do have something that needs to be colorized in its output, it will be colorized already. I can do type bash. So bash is a command, an external shell command that is located on bin bash. I can also say which bash, which will say which command I'm actually using. I like to, well, and of course, Linux and Unix people, they like to be funny people. So of course, I do not have only less, but I also have, I do not have only more, but I also have less. So I can say grep minus minus help pipe to less. And now I can have better pagination options, such as using the arrow keys to navigate into the pages. And I can also use VI commands. VI is a very popular Linux and Unix editor to search strings. For instance, let's just try to search I just use a slash messages, and it will highlight the occurrences of messages in the page that I'm looking at. If I look into man less, you'll say that less is the opposite of more. So people do like internal jokes. So here I talked a lot about the shell. If I go to another lessons, I'll see some other stuff that I can work on. The command ls, the typical command that will list the things that I have in my folder. So let's take a look at this command, and then I'll open for questions again. This is going to be very briefly. If you take a look into your root directory, and the root starts with a slash, meaning that this is where your file system in Linux and Unix will start, you'll see several important folders in here. The folder etc, for instance, refers to all of the configuration files that you have in your system. If you use ls/etc, then you have all of the files that we have in there, files and folders. If I want to do a long listing, I want to have more information about the folders and files that are in there, I use the ls-l option. And ls-l stands for long listing. How do I know that? Well, you already know the answer. ls-help, man ls, and info ls will give me this information. So I know that there's a lot of stuff in there, so pipe to more. I like also to tell people the story of the pipe thing, but if we do have the time, I'll go through that. If not, you can ask me later. So now, if you see in the long listing now, I have some stuff that starts with a D. D means directory or folder. And I do have some stuff that starts with a dash. Dashes are just regular files. So if I look into more of the topics that we have in the Linux Essentials exams, you see that we will work with regular expressions. So now I'll do something a little bit different. Instead of piping to more, I'll pipe to grep again. But I will use a special character, which is the circumflex. The circumflex in this case means stuff that starts with. And I want stuff that starts with. So I just want the folders. So grep D. And again, I'll pipe to more. So here you are. Now the only things that I have listed are things that start with a D. At this point, I also like to give students some challenges and actually work with them to solve the challenges. I want to know how many folders I have inside the folder /etc. So let me move to my folder TTT. I will use a shortcut. This is my home directory, TTT. And here I will create a very small file. I will use a simple text editor called VI. Usually the first time I'm working with my students, I use another text editor called Nano, because it's just simpler. I'm not going to fire Nano in here because probably the interface is in Portuguese, so I'll use VI, and I will create a text called names.txt. Okay, and inside this name.txt, I will just use the letter I to put this in insert mode, and I'll write in here some names of people that at some point in time worked inside the Enterprise Starship. Okay, I'll save now, so I will use W to write and Q to quit. I will clear. So let's do some text manipulation stuff, just very quickly. If you go back to the lessons, finding a way, oops. Now let's go back to all materials, essentials. The power of command line, probably archiving files, searching and extracting, turning commands into a script, probably still in here. Well, somewhere around here, there is text manipulation stuff. I know if we go into here in the objectives, is an easy way for me to find. Let's find, for instance, the command WC. Okay, and this is on topic 3.2, the command WC. Okay, so as I go into the topics, I try to connect stuff, so it's gonna be easier for people to learn stuff. So if I do, I now have this file names.txt in there. If I do cat names.txt, I'll just see my file. Cat is not the animal cat, it's short for concatenate. And now if I do cat names.txt and pipe to WC, WC means word count. How do I know that? WC minus minus help, man WC, or info WC. I see that I have 8 lines, 24 words, 182 characters. Let's do WC minus minus help, pipe 2 more, and I see that the argument L will only count the number of lines. So if I do that again, WC minus L, I'm only counting the lines of this archive. I can also do, as you know, in Linux, we can do the same thing in different ways. I can just do WC minus L names.txt. It will pretty much will give me the same answer. The file names.txt has 8 lines. So now you have enough elements for you to know how many folders you have inside the etc folder. So you just do ls minus L because you want to make sure that you have the D portion in there. Then you pipe to WC ls slash etc. Then you pipe into WC minus L. 254 folders inside the slash etc folder. Things can be a little more interesting, and I will just do a shortcut right now. You know that, well, if you don't know, I'm telling you right now, inside the proc directory means processes and things that are actually part of my processor, my computer, things that are in my computer. This is a virtual folder that is actually written during the time I boot my system, and it's updated as I have more or less processes running in my system. But let me show you something inside this proc directory. Let me do a cat /proc /cpu info and pipe it 2 more. So here you see that I have my processor 0. It is an Intel processor, and this is the model name. If I scroll down, I'll see that I have a processor 1. If I scroll down, I'll see a processor 2, and so on. So if I want to know how many processors I have in my system, I can do cat /proc /cpu info, pipe grep processor, pipe word count, and count the lines. So I can use as many pipes as I want in order to build a command. So I have 4 processors in my system. And I do think it's a good moment for a pause right now. Right, Kate? Do we have some questions?
Not a lot of questions. We have one question about a past program that you may know more than I do. The question is LPI interested in reintroducing a program to certify trainers as in the past? I believe the program was called Certified Trainer.
This is something that's actually coming back into our discussions, and even more now that since we announced the Train the Trainer program, we have been receiving this kind of questions, and my answer will be pretty much similar to some of those that I gave before. If our community thinks this is something important, and you guys are our community, we can surely reintroduce this program. It's something that we prefer not to do at some point in time, because our approved training partners and approved academic partners, they already have people that went through their internal training programs to become trainers, and then they took the LPI certifications. So they were already, let's say, certified trainers by other institutions, not by LPI, such as a university professor or someone that works in another independent training institution and goes to their training program. So at some point in time, we thought that we were replicating efforts as we were told by our community at the time. But this is something that's actually coming back. And I think one of the reasons also that this is coming back is that there are other certification programs, such as the ones provided by the Scrum Alliance, where you do have this figure of the certified trainer. So if you are interested in that, you already let us know in here. So it is something that myself and Caitlin, we have been receiving some other feedback from other parts. It is something that we can also open some consultation and think about this again. Right, Caitlin?
Absolutely. Absolutely. One other question here is someone's asking to please explain a bit more about the proc op rate.
Oh, sure. Okay. First, let me go back then a little bit. If I look into the special, I want to do just ls/. Here are all of our, the way that our root system is structured. So I told you about the etc is where we have our configuration files, and I told you a little bit now about the proc. Proc is a file system that is built when we boot our system. Inside proc, we'll have information about the processes that are running in our system. So let's do ls -l / proc and pipe it to less this time. So, okay, let me go to, here's all the things related to process 0, which is updated several times. We'll talk about process 0 because I think it's needed for us to talk about it. Let me just do an ls very quickly to get more information. Oops, ls/proc. Okay, just ls/proc. So here is easier for us to see. Here you have the numbered processes. There are processes that are actually running in our system. We can actually get some information about those processes, but by just looking into them. Let's see, for instance, this process here. I don't know what this is, right? So ls -l1675. Oh, okay, yes, it's not a directory because it's a special kind of file. But I can, is it, okay. Let me try to do one thing very quickly in here. I forgot ls -l proc 1675. Okay, now, so I can see that 1675 is actually a folder. And inside this folder, I have several files. The attributes of this file, the command line. Let me take a look at the command line of this file. Oh, who is actually running this process? So this is probably a user process because it belongs to me. The executable is this executable in here. It's a panel. It is panel here in the bottom of my screen. But I can have more information about this file. So let's take a look at the command line. So let's do ls command line. Okay, it's a regular file. Let me cat this file. Okay, so this is the actual command line that is running. And here it says it is in Portuguese, is the notifications for my X-Face panel. So by looking into the proc, I can have several information about the processes that are running in my operating system. This is one thing. Okay, so and every process is numbered. So when I run a command such as, let me clear here. When I run a command such as ps, and I will use the key all to list all my process, I will see some of the processes that are running. Actually, I want to list all, so it's psax, and let's pipe it two more. Here are all of the processes that are running in my operating system. I can actually do a grep in this process 1675. So let's take a look. Grep 1675. So, okay, it's actually a process that is running in my system. So you see, when I run a command such as ps, which is process status, and the AX key allows me to list more information about the process that are running, this command actually looks into what I have into the /proc directory, where I have information about all of the processes that are running in my system. So several commands. Another one is top, which lists the process that are most consuming my system. This command is actually reading into the proc directory and bringing me information into here. What is a process in the Linux operating system? A process is a program that is actually being executed in the system. It's consuming processor and it's consuming memory. If a process is not running, it's just a program sitting somewhere. So in order to be a process is a program that is actually running in our system. The other things that I have into my proc directory, one thing I already told you, I do have information about my CPU. So if I do, let's do something different now. /proc /CPU info. I have information about my CPU. So if I here now, as I use less, I can search inside. So if I want to look for cores, for CPU cores, it will highlight the cores that I have for each of my CPUs. So you notice that I have several processors. Each one of these processes have actually 2 cores. I also can get information about my memory. So here I have 6 gigabytes in my system. So there are several other things that I can get info about by looking at my proc directory. Is there more questions?
No questions at this time.
Okay, so let me do, let me follow on with some stuff. You saw that on item 3.2, we do have some more text manipulation programs, so it's fine to play with some of them. We already looked at grep, less, we know what cat is. Let's take a look now first at sort. Okay, let me go back to our the trainer folder. here that I have minus minus L, sorry. I have lieutenant, 3 lieutenants. So now let's take a look at the kind of sort in the alphabetical order. If I do sort minus R, then I'll sort in the reverse order. And if I do minus R capital letter, it is going to be a random sort. Now, take a look at this. Clear again. There are several ways to do the same thing, so I can just do sort minus R names, and it's sorted in the reverse order. I told you that there are several ways to do the same thing, so we can also turn the cat around and say peck instead of cat. So this is just for fun, of course. You should not try to reverse the name of every Linux command and expect it to behave in the contrary of it usually behaves. But this is just some fun stuff that will help people know that peck is actually the same thing as sort minus R names. But let's have some fun. If I do sort minus R names, now you see every time it's going to be different. So if I use let's take a look at the command head minus minus help, and again pipe 2 more. Help will list the first lines of a file. By default, it will print the 10 first lines of the file. But I can actually say minus n and specify the number of the line. I can say minus n or minus minus lines. So for short, I'll say minus n. So let's try to do something. Head minus n1 names. Okay, only the first name. Okay, now if I do let's play a little bit. Sort minus R names and pipe to head minus n1. I just created an instant sorting system. I use this a lot when I work in events and I do some shell stuff and some shell programming stuff. The first thing that I do is actually when I start with the class, I ask their names, and then I use this to actually give them prizes and some swag and things like that. So it's always fun to work with the shell. Another thing very interesting, if I just want to know the ranks of the people, I can do cat, again the names, and I can pipe to cut minus d. If I look into cut minus minus help, I will know that minus d is for the delimiter, so I'll use the delimiter space, the space that I have between the rank and the name, and I'll say minus f for field 1. Okay, now I only have the ranks. I can do F2 and have the first name, and F3 and have the third name. So lots of different stuff that we can actually do. How are we doing so far? Are we okay?
We are okay. I just want to mention we have about 10 minutes left.
Oh, good. So just for us to end, well, Maybe, I don't know, maybe if you guys want to ask some questions, now that you know that you have only 10 minutes left, maybe this is the time.
Yeah,
So,
please use the chat or the Q&A box at the bottom. And keep going a bit if you wish. And if people do have questions afterwards as well, I will provide contact information that you can touch base with.
perfect, perfect. So I will just end with something that is very quick. You'll see if we work with our topics and also with our lessons, we will work with scripts, right? And I do like to, in order for people to understand scripts, I do like them to have fun with scripts. So I use probably 3 minutes, no more than that, to work with some script with you. So basically, when we write a script, we will use a text editor. So now, although probably the interface is in Portuguese, I'll use Nano, and I will write my script. And I'll name it, I'll just add the extension sh. And just for you to know, Linux doesn't take care about your extension. The extension is something for us to facilitate our lives. Linux actually takes a look inside of what you have within your file to make sure what the file is for. And if we do have the time, we'll do something on that. But actually, in the sample lesson, you'll see more things about that. So when I start a script, oh, good, it is in English. What I like about Nano is that it does have here at the bottom some help for you to work with the text editor. So the first line, if we write a script, is something that we call shebang. It comes from hash and bang, the exclamation sign. The first line, when we use the shebang, we are telling the operating system what is the command that we are going to use to execute what comes after. If we use an extra hash, or well, I'll call it hash, probably it has some other names, the hashtag. So this is a script for needy people. Someone that actually wants the operating systems to talk more to them, because this is one thing that we did not talk about too much, but inside the Linux operating system and the shell, no news is good news. So if a command doesn't give you any response, it means that the command worked well. So I'll use the echo command in here. Echo will just play in the screen what I'm gonna write in here. What is your name, dear friend? Okay, so it will print it in the screen. Do take a look when you are studying for your training. What is the difference between using, oh God, what is the name of quotes? If you're using single quotes or double quotes, so they have different meanings depending on what you're using. And I'm gonna read the name of the person. I'll say this variable is your name. When I say read, the shell script will just wait for me to type my name. And now I'm gonna say echo. Wow. And your name. If I put a $sign in front of the variable, I will expand the contents of the variable. You look shiny shiny today. Okay, and that's it. That's it for my script. Now I will just save by hitting Ctrl X. It's right in here. Save, I will answer yes, so I'll save the changes and I'll save to my script.sh. Now, if I do file my script. This operating system now knows it's a shell script. And it knows because of the first line that I wrote saying it is a shell script. Let's say which shell I'm using, which bash, /bin/bash. So if I don't know my shell, the shell that I'm using, I can use which, so I'll use this to use in the hash bang line. And if I say file /bin/bash, it is a sharing object, it's an interpreter, so it gives me more information about that file. So you see that although bash has no extension, Linux knows what is inside it. There is one more thing, actually I could do this another way, but now I need to turn my shell script into an executable. So again, there are several ways for me to do that. I'll do the simple way. I would say +x, oh, sorry, this keyboard is killing me, +x my script.sh. Before I do that, ls-l, my script, you see that I have the permissions here for read and write, okay? If I now do chmod +x, I'm adding an executable bit to that, my script.sh. If I do an ls -l again, my script.sh, now it is executable. This is something that it's the students need to know, how permissions on files and folders work. So do take a very good look at this topic in our exams and in the learning materials. Try to understand what this is all about. I'll give you one hint after that, but now I can do some operating systems will allow you to, some Linux distribution will allow you to just say my script.sh and it will run. Most of them will need to tell you / execute from this folder my script.sh. What is your name, dear friend? My name is Cesar. And wow, Cesar, you look shiny today. So it's interesting to build scripts that are fun with your students, so it will help them to understand what are the fundamentals involved on that. Of course, there are several other things that you need to do. Just one thing for us to end very, very quickly. I just want to give you a small link, as my students keep asking me how I set up permissions on the Linux system. I have created a shared document on Google where I call the chmodator. I'll just put the link in here, and then I can also share with the chat, which is probably going to be easier. So here you have the permissions for the user, for the group, and for all of the others. And you can set the permissions in here the way you want. And so at the end you have how you will use the chmod command in the octal mode. I will translate it into English, and I'll provide you as a feedback for this lesson, because this is something very interesting and very easy to teach students how the security works in the Linux operating system. So I think I have used all the time that I have, right, Caitlin?
Yes, you have, unfortunately. Thank you so much, Cesar. I really appreciate it, and we've gotten some great feedback from our attendees as well. I will also, if you want to send me that link, I'll send it and share it in the email that I will be sending out. But that's all the time we have for today. So thank you, Cesar, and thank you all for the attendees for joining us. That being said, I will be sending around a brief evaluation. We want to hear from you, your feedback, and what you want to hear about our webinars and any webinar topics that you would find interesting. I will share the presentation recording and the slides, and of course, contact information for myself and Cesar if there's any follow-up questions. But thank you all again, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you, guys. Bye-bye.